it must be good to get back on the road after the COVID shutdown.
Crazy. It's been fantastic. It's like a big piece of my life was missing.
So what did you do during your time off to pass the time?
At first, it was harder. You know, I was very up and down emotionally. I was very sad and very just distraught, like everybody else was. You know, what's the next move kind of thing. But I learned to embrace the time at home, the blessing, you know, the silver lining. You know, the blessing was I got to spend time with my family that otherwise I hadn't been able to. And, you know, and I still did studio stuff as it came in. You know, most everybody has a recording studio at their house now, so I do a lot of remote tracking there, and just tried to be creative as possible. I got into martial arts, which has been very...
Find it therapeutic?
I do, very much so. That's actually why I started it. A buddy of mine is a master at what he does, and yeah, he's kind of taken me under his wing, and I'm his student, and yeah, I'm about 7-8 months in now, and I'm learning a lot. Like it's a lot to learn, and I take it very seriously, and I approach it like I would anything else. You know, just very and I mean business when I'm doing it. You know, I don't want to. Those guys taking their time to teach me a craft that they've known and they've studied for many years. So I try to go in and do it justice. You know, I don't want to. It's like I approach a song.
Yeah.
You know, Luke's songs, I try to do them justice the way they were recorded. They were recorded that way for a reason. So I'm not going to try to step on those toes. You know.
You grew up in a musical family.
I did, yeah.
And parents had a band. That must have been a great atmosphere to grow up in.
Yes.
And how did you get into playing the drums?
You know, as far back as I remember. I remember, so I lived in this little house, and my mom and dad were in a band called Cloudburst. They were in a band and they were rehearsed downstairs. So I had that, and they were doing like top 40, you know, Fleetwood Mac, Linda Ronstadt, Oak Ridge Boy, whatever. That end of the spectrum. And then next door was my cousin, and he had a rock band, and they were doing Kiss, Led Zeppelin, Alice Cooper, all that other stuff. So I had the best of both worlds, in my opinion, and I grew up around that all the time. So I kind of took to both sides of those. You know, I love all kinds of music, but it kind of made me, as a child, even respect music. You know, Alabama and all that stuff. You know, 6, 7 years old, I really grasped how amazing Alabama was, you know, vocally and all this and that. So it was like, it goes back to, I remember 2 years old, I have pictures on my phone, and every now and again I'll go back there and look, and then I'm here, and like I look back at that little guy in the picture, and I'm going, that kid's this guy now. And it's I think it started like I would put up records. I had some cymbal stands, and I would put up records. They were cymbals to me, right? You're 2 years old, why not? And so I would take a stick and I would hit them and they would break. And then Mom tells the stories. I was hitting, she had this piano, and there's dents and chips all over the piano where I would take drumsticks and hit everything but a drum set. So I don't think they had much choice but to get me a drum set or a snare drum. There's a picture on my phone of me barely tall enough, and I was 2. It says it's one of the old, you know, Polaroids, you know, and you used to write on them and everything. And it said that 2 years old, and I'm barely tall enough. I got a pair of sticks, and they're as big as I am, but I'm giving it heck, you know. So it's I was just always around it, and it just kind of progressed. And you know, in middle school, high school, I was really big into sports, but music was always there. You know, through those times when you could have been on this, you know, getting in trouble and you know, whatever kids do. You know, I was inside listening to my Kiss records or what have you, and just really kind of diving into that world. And it's just, you know, every time I hear a song, it takes me back to my childhood. I remember exactly where I was, and music is it's a special thing. So I do not take for granted how much it's been a part of my life, my whole life.
Yeah. So, I know exactly what you're saying. It takes you back.
It does.
To that time period, because that does the same thing for me.
Well, we were literally talking on the bus last night, you know, and we were talking about these songs. It's like, man, I remember where I was when this and this and that. And of course, you know, there's some of the guys that are older in the band than me, and there's some guys, you know, we're the same age, so we're all yeah, man, I remember where I was and where you were when you heard that song was a lot different than where you know what I mean? So it's such a cool thing to talk about. And music is a universal language, I should say. Yeah.
It is for sure. Did you, did you play in a band at all, like a high school or just a pickup thing
I didn't do high school, but I did high school band 2 years, and I just wanted to play in a band.
Yeah.
You know, I was like everybody else. I think that I just wanted to sit behind a drum set, and I was, you know, they put me on snare drum and everything. And the funny thing is, I didn't want to take the time to read the music, which hindsight, I should have done that. I would trade everything, or not trade everything. I wouldn't change anything at all, but I wish I would have paid more attention. So what I would do is just, I played by ear, and I would kind of listen to what this guy did right before it was my turn, and then I'd kind of pretend I was reading the music. I would read some of it, but a lot of it I would ad lib and just kind of worm my way through it, you know, and somehow fooled them.
Yeah.
But I think they really knew what was going on, but they let me get by with it. So I only did it 2 years, and then I kind of gravitated more toward the sports again, kind of thing. And I was more of a sports guy through high school and everything. But like I said, music was always there. I was always listening. Out of high school, I joined my dad's band. So I cut my teeth with one of the best local bands around. My dad was a very accomplished musician locally, and the band was incredible, and I just kind of jumped right into that world of an amazing vocal band. I sang in the band, and my dad kind of let me go through the phase of overplaying, which, oh man, it's just, I listened back to some of those board tapes, and it was just atrocious what I got by with, or what I did, and I would go back and listen. I was just like, my goodness, you know. So he let me kind of do that. He knew it was a phase, I guess, and I've learned over the years to play for the song, stay out of the way. You know, you don't have to do a 4-bar fill over top of a vocal. You know, so it's just, you learn. That comes with time. You know,
is a phase.
They're still grown men I see doing drum fills all over the place, and they just
for sure
not listening, I guess. You know. But
who are some of your early drum influences?
Oh man, well, you know, other than the players in my dad's and mom's band, you know, I remember watching those guys, but man, I remember seeing the Beach Boys on TV, and the double drummer deal really took me, you know, but it was always Peter Criss, John Bonham, of course, and it was a lot of bands. You know, it wasn't just the drummers. It was, even at a young age, I really took to the bands like Fleetwood Mac, again, Alabama, just the band thing. And I would always focus on the drummer, but it was just the overall sound that was coming out of this whole thing, and the drummer was driving the train, you know, and I always thought that was the coolest thing, you know. And of course, Peter Criss had Kiss in general had this, it was bigger than life, you know, and it made me and millions of others want to pick up drumsticks and do that. That's what we want to do for a living, you know. And that, and like I said, I just learned, you know, it was mainly local guys. I guess now I have more influences than I did back then, but it was a lot of the local guys that I just grew up around watching. You know, I would just sit and really watch them and take it in. And, you know, right now, I mean, the list is so long, it's hard to say, do I have a favorite drummer or influences? I mean, there's hundreds. There's, you know, Greg Morrow from Nashville, who plays on everyone's records. There's, you know, Eric Singer from Kiss is a great player.
Were you upset?
I'm all over the place, man.
Were you upset when they replaced Peter Criss?
Not at all. I think it was a, you know, Kiss fans, I'm the biggest Kiss fan on planet Earth, but I think it was a necessary move, and I think the band moved onwards and upwards as far as musicianship and everything. Eric Carr was an incredible drummer, and Eric Singer is I think just, I followed Eric from the Badlands days and on through Alice Cooper and Lita Ford and all that stuff, and now he's with Kiss, and lucky enough to call him a friend now, which is crazy. But that guy, I think Kiss is, you know, to stand the test of time, and you know, your Alice Coopers and And, you know, and then on the other end, there's Reba McEntire, who I saw in like '85, and it blew my mind, you know, just how professional and how well of a show she put together. It was mesmerizing. So I have love for all kinds of, every genre of music has its own thing, and there's a beauty to everything. You just it's like anything else. It's good or it's bad to you, you know. You're either a fan or you're not. It doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
And I just kind of, and that goes the way with drummers. I find the good, and there's so many drummers. Kenny Aronoff, there's all these guys that I grabbed from, and I've learned so much from over the years. You take little tidbits and you kind of put it into your own playing, you know. So you steal from everyone.
Right. Then it becomes our
repertoire, then it becomes your thing, yeah. And it's like, you know, that fill right there, that's the Steve Gadd fill, or that's the so-and-so fill, or Steve Smith fill, and like everybody, you know, it's great that those guys have influenced so many drummers. And I just read, you know, Steve Jordan's getting ready to fill the chair with the Rolling Stones. I'm like, perfect guy to fill the chair for the Rolling Stones. It's like that guy, you know, it's like that guy speaks when he plays, you know. And it's just that everybody's got their beauty and their thing, and
that will be a tough gig to fill.
Oh my gosh, yes. They've been playing with, as far as I know, I don't think Charlie Watts has ever missed.
He hasn't.
I don't think they've ever used a drummer. Yeah. So it's
going
to be interesting, you know. So
for sure.
God bless them.
So who was your first really big successful gig with?
My first break was a gentleman named Anthony Smith. He was a singer-songwriter, more on the songwriting end of it is what he was known for when he came out. And he put out this incredible record.
Is he out of Nashville?
He is out of Nashville. He was on, back in the day, it was Mercury Records, and I got an audition for him while still living in Kentucky, which is rare because a lot of guys, you know, have to live out of their car and do all these. A lot of my friends have done just that. So it was a little different for me. I got hired, or got the audition. I got the call while I was still living in Kentucky, via a buddy of mine named Carl Shannon, who worked for a radio station there, and he dropped my name to Anthony Smith at the CRS, the radio, country radio CRS, in Nashville, and saw Anthony and, hey man, there's this young kid in Kentucky that's ready to go on the road and he's hungry and blah blah blah, you know, and gave him the spiel, you know, and lo and behold, 6 months later or so, or three, I can't even tell you, I was working at the music store during the day, and the phone rang, and it was Anthony Smith. He goes, hey Kent, you know, your name, you came highly recommended for this gig, and, you know, we'd love to jam with you, you know, and of course, you know, later I found out that everyone thought he was crazy for doing, why are you gonna take a chance on some kid from Kentucky when you have the pool of greatness here in Nashville, you know? And he was like, he always told me, he's like, man, I have a gut feeling about this kid, and I owe setting here to Anthony Smith. I mean, he really, I owe my career to him, really.
Because you went to Anthony, to Pam,
to Luke, and it's, you know, ultimately I owe my career to my mom and dad, who and my cousin and everyone, my aunt and uncle, everyone involved that really encouraged me to play, and then my dad, who I played in a band with, and he took me under his wing and showed me the ins and outs of you know, how to play a song, you know. And then when Anthony, I started with this killer band. They were a great band, and I was the new kid on the block, so I really had to, it made me a better player. It was like I was joining the Olympic basketball team, and I was the worst player on the team, you know what I mean?
It raises you up.
Exactly. You have to rise above to everyone else's level, so I like to think I did that, and I learned a lot from that gig, and then I love that guy dearly. Again, we still chat from time to time, and then that led to, you know, I saw the guitar player was playing with Tanya Tucker at the time and saw me on a festival in Kansas, and then he was putting the band together for a guy named Darren Favorite, who's a great friend of mine, incredible player. Hey man, randomly I got, you know, Anthony got off the road, and I went back to Kentucky and was working, you know, full time again and playing, you know, 10 to 2 at night and doing the thing, you know, the grind. And I was going through a drive-through, I think it was Arby's at the time, and I got a phone call from a 615 number, which is the Nashville area code, and I was like, that's weird. And I picked it up, and it was Darren Favorite going, hey man, I saw you play with so-and-so, and I think you'd be great for this gig. Pam Tillis is interested in putting a band together because she wants to go back out, and would you be interested? I'm like, absolutely. So I darted out of the line and went to Walmart, Walmart right up the road there, and bought her greatest hits and started plugging away that night.
Yeah.
And I was really mesmerized, like I was like taken aback. I'm like, Pam Tillis, like she's been nominated for Grammys, you know, and I was like, whoa, okay, this is real. So, and sure enough, I went up down to Nashville and I auditioned and hung out and met her, and she was as sweet as pie. And
if you're coming with me and these nerves of steel, I take corners on 2 wheels. It's a never-ending circus ride. Ain't a heart need not apply. Come on, repeat over and over.
you had to wear lots of hats in that gig, and it taught me again so much about it. Prepared me what I like to think for any gig I could possibly come my way, because you had to play jazz, you had to play R&B, you had to play rock and roll, you had to play straight up country, shuffles all night long, which I love. There was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of ground covered in that gig, and I owe her so much for teaching me how to play a song and play with a singer and really listen to everything that's going on, and play musical, and then that she took off the road. She had to get off the road for about a year, and then I was back to square one. I was like, okay, now what? And then I got a call from a bass player named Keith Horn, who I played with at Anthony Smith. He was playing with Luke, who was a brand new artist at the time, and he goes, hey man, they're looking to make a change at this position. Would you be interested? I said, absolutely, because I had seen Luke. He opened up for Pam Tillis in Nashville at a show we did, and I was like, that guy has got something. I was like, he's got this thing. Can't put my finger on it, but he's got the thing. And I got the call to audition for that and go hang out and jam, and we're starting my 14th year. He was getting ready to put out his third single. When I started with him, and it hadn't come out yet. So then we're here, I guess, 27, 28 number ones later, so it's been quite the ride. I'm kind of taken aback, it's just like, wow, this whole thing really got way bigger than I ever thought it would, even. So.
Sure. How many tour buses are out there?
Oh my goodness. I think there's about 14 tractor trailers and maybe 6 or 7 buses, maybe 7 buses in our camp.
Yeah.
So it's an enterprise. It's a traveling circus. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to the machine, So.
For sure. So when you have some time off, do you have some hobbies that you like to do?
I do, yeah. I touched on earlier. I do the martial arts thing now at least once a week with my gentleman training me, and then I do a lot of recording. I do a lot of recording either at my place mainly, or our bass player, James Cook, and I work together a lot at his studio. He's got a killer studio, and he does a lot of producing and stuff like that. So we'll go over there and do full band projects. My place is just percussion, drums and percussion type things. So I can't do full production at my place. So I just do drums and percussion. I could do, bass or drums, or so. I just couldn't do everything at the same time.
Right.
But yeah, I do a lot of that, and I love staying busy, but mainly I try to use the most of my time with my kids and my family, and try to really focus on that when I'm home. And unless it's work related, I'm pretty much always with my kids.
You said you played with Pam Tillis. What was one thing you learned from playing with her? Was there one thing that?
Man, the one thing that really stands out to me is how to play for a singer. I was very conscious of the way she sang and the way she liked things laid in the groove of things. She would back phrase a lot, So I think a lot of that was just listening to where she was singing. If she was back phrased, I'd pull it back more, you know, and that and just really, you know, harmonies, and her ear is so fantastic. I mean, she would hear things that I couldn't even imagine. You know, she'd hear notes rubbing with each other, and that really kind of made me tune in more with that kind of thing. I just learned how to be more of a well-rounded player as well. Like I said, I had to wear so many different hats. I mean, she'd do a Christmas show, and it was a lot of stuff to learn. And I embraced it. It was a challenge. And yeah, she was just, again, and I learned a lot about the studio with her. I was blessed to go into the studio with her, and I got to play on a few projects of hers, and we did a live DVD, you know, and all this and that, and it was a great time. And it set me up for the next level, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Tell me about working with Luke.
best thing I've ever done, man. I mean, this guy's, you know, like I said, starting the 14th year, and like I said, I envisioned him being successful, but I had no idea at what level it would be. And I think we were counting the other day, our guitar player, the utility player, told me we've headlined 34 stadiums since, I forget what year, 2013 or something like that. And I'm like, that's incredible. That's not a lot of people get to do that. And it's just his genuine, he's a genuine person. He's a real great dude. He has had my back from day one since I started, and he's just a good guy. I'd go to bat for him any day of the week. He's been great to me and my family. He's the real deal. When you come and see Luke in the concert, you know that you're going to get a good time. There's no question that it's going to be fun. And he's a great singer. He's a country music connoisseur. He knows all kinds of country. So in sound check, when he sound checks, we'll pop out some Shenandoah or something cool that we never get to play, some Tracy Lawrence or whatever, you know. And so he's very well-rounded as a musician. Great, you know, he's a piano player, guitar player, and just a heck of a songwriter, and just a great dude. He's a family guy, and I love that. You know, he's been, like I said, great to me, and he lets me kind of do my thing back there. I try to do justice for the record, and it kind of evolves into this thing live, you know, this beast that is live music, you know. So.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
What advice would you have for a young player that's up and coming?
I would say be humble, you know, because there's always somebody better. There's always somebody. Just have a good attitude. You know the old saying, attitude is gratitude, which is true. And I'm not saying I have bad days like everybody else, but at the end of the day, I get to play drums and provide for my family doing that, you know. So I'm going to say, keep your head on straight. Try to learn from your mistakes, you know, and learn how to play to a metronome. Because back when I was in my dad's band, again, you need to learn how to play to a metronome. I'm like, what are you talking about? I took offense to it. I'm like, what? What do you mean? He goes, you just trust me. If you want to play in Nashville, you got to have this. Lo and behold, he was right. Because if you know, for the most part, you're going to need one in the studio. You're going to need one live nowadays, because everything we do is tied to the video. So you got to keep it true. There's multiple reasons to use a click track live, and you know, it's for delays. So the guitar players can set their delays. It's to keep everything in time. It's like when Luke's 50 yards out in a stadium. You know what I mean? There's that reference. So there's multiple reasons, and you know, 90%, 95% of shows right now, whether it's pop, country, whatever that may be, are to a click track. So I highly recommend embracing it. Learn how to use it, because ultimately what's going to happen is when you don't use it, your inner clock is going to be better. You're not even thinking about it. Your tempo is going to be better not using it. I like for, you know, sometimes I'll be playing, I'll start the click, you know, and, I'll be playing and then boom, I'll hit it and I'll cut it off for a few bars, right? Or whatever. Then I'll get back on just for reference and see where I'm at. And sometimes I'm a little in front, sometimes a little back, but sometimes I'm right on it. And so I think that, again, that just comes in time with doing it for years and years. I've been using the metronome for, gosh, I guess since I was 18, 19 years old. And I'm not that anymore. So embrace a metronome and learn how to use it. It's not just drummer's job to play to a metronome, it's everyone's. That's a misconception. The drummer's dragging or this and that. It's not always the drummer. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a misconception, so. But yeah, I just say, keep your head on straight, practice, embrace all types of music. Because if the phone rings, you don't want to say no. You don't want to have to say no. It's like, hey man, I need a drummer for this R&B gig tonight. Okay. Or you don't want to have to go, man, that's really not my bag, blah, 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 blah. Just listen to all kinds of music. Learn as much as you can. That way when the phone rings, that door opens, you can walk through the door, that opportunity.
And you never know when you get a Pam Tillis gig.
Exactly.
You're gonna need
exactly. Out of the blue, and it happened.
Yep.
So, yep.
Well, thanks a lot. I
Thank
appreciate
you
taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.